and you can start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session called Everything You Need to Know About the UiPath Community Ecosystem. We are so excited to have you here. And first things first, I want to ask if anyone has interacted with the community before, or if this is the first time that you're participating in our events. You can unmute yourself or tell us, raise your hands.
It's my first time.
Oh, great. It's great to hear because we have a lot of cool information for both beginners and people who already have some experience. So it's a great chance to learn more. And before we get started, I'd like to kindly remind everyone that this meeting is recorded. So if you can keep yourself on mute, but if you have any question, don't hesitate to put it in the chat and we'll get back to you later. Throughout the session, we will also be posting some useful links in the chat. And next week, probably on Monday, you'll also be able to see the recording on the events page. So with that being said, I would like to introduce to you today's team. Our first speaker is Diana Gray, who is the Senior Community Marketing Manager in the Americas region. Then we have Jeffrey, who is the Director of Process Excellence and who is also one of our community's most valuable professionals. And I want to thank them for being today's speakers. They're going to present you some really cool information. And then there is me, who is going to host all of you guys today. And I am an intern of the community team. And I'm so excited to host this event. Yeah. We are going to start off with the introduction. Then we have two main parts of our webinar with our speakers. And at the end, we have a Q&A for anything that you might be curious about. And with that, I will pass the mic to my colleague, Diana, who's gonna talk to you about the UiPath community platform.
Great. So you just need to start sharing my slides. Great. So as Anna Maria said, I'm the community manager for UiPath in Americas. And as part of the community here at UiPath, we have over 2.5 million professionals and students who work on getting their automation journey with UiPath and ways to engage with that. So we have developer events and hackathons. We have content creation with blogs, videos, use cases. We have ways to recognize our members. Jeffrey will talk a little bit about that later on. We also have learning on our academy. Our learning is free, and there's learning paths that teach you how to get certified if that is your end goal. And then we also have forum support and product engagement. So forum support I'll go through a little bit later, but that's a way to connect with people any time of the day or night. So I just wanted to start out with our main page. So basically our URL is https://community.uipath.com, and Anna Maria will be putting that in the chat. So we have a very vibrant community. Our company size is roughly around 4,000 people worldwide. And if you really look at the community being over close to 3 million users, that's huge for a company of this size. People in our community are highly engaged. And they typically do that not only through their participation, but their involvement with programs. And we're going to go through those a little bit. But the main thing here is just to know that this is our main page and the window to pretty much everything that we do community. So as a professional in automation, this allows you to get the latest news on AI automation in our community, how to practice and grow your skills, how to meet like-minded people. So the network in our community is super important. People really collaborate across the globe, and it's a lot of fun because they're like-minded. So They love like working with each other and doing events. And we do a lot of things where we let our community figure out how to solve challenges, win prizes. They also get to contribute to their professional domain through, like I said, certifications or taking courses. They get certificates. There's also things that they can do, like win a hackathon, and so they can post that on their LinkedIn. Just really good ways to get recognized for their contributions. And then you'll see on the forum too, we have the opportunity for our participants to win badges so that people know them by, the skills that they've acquired while on the community. And then as a company, you get, people get direct access to the latest development and news. They enjoy free, accessible, and practical knowledge. So one thing about the events we run, and I think it's really kind of unique to UiPath, is if you have a topic that you want covered, I literally will find whoever can teach that, whether it's a UiPath professional or an MVP or somebody who just really knows that, because we want to bring our executives and our professionals close to the community. And this is a great way for them to get involved. And it's also great for you to get that one-on-one time where you can actually ask them questions and feel like you're part of UiPath. So I really enjoy that part of our community. And then there's a lot of motivation, ways to increase the engagement of employees in charge of using automation. I'm working on a few projects right now where I'm literally working with schools and setting up a program for them to learn UiPath in addition to taking self-paced courses. So I think all those things are really great ways to like engage with people and make sure that they really understand the basics and can then, choose this as a career path if they want. And then you can also grow your brand as an employee through your contributions and leadership and using AI automation. This is a hot field. I think there's a lot of job that are coming available that really, can be important for you, and it doesn't have to be your entire career, but I think automation obviously is just a really unique criteria to have in your toolbox for moving your career forward. So currently we have about 500K contributors or community members in the Americas, and then EMEA is a little bit more. They have a lot more countries. And then India's where a lot of our developers are. So that's kind of our trend right now as far as where the most people live who participate in the communities. So the main things and the main platforms of engagement besides the UiPath Community Hub are the UiPath Academy, and you can link through that to that through the UiPath community. We also have an Inside monthly demo day. Insider is a way to listen directly to the product group. So if you're involved in the community, you definitely want to sign up for that. And then the UiPath Forum. Forum is really our way to talk to people, ask any kind of question you want. And again, I'll go through that a little bit later on our slide on the forum. So let's just start with the UiPath Academy. The Academy has multiple learning paths, multiple courses. All of this is free. And basically, what this allows for is online self-study. You do get certificates when you finish your courses in certain areas, and then they do have like tests that they will train you on. They'll give you little quizzes and stuff. So it's some of the best courseware I've ever seen. And so if you have any questions on this, there's a lot. You can take different learning paths. You can take AI, you can take Studio, you can take business analytics. So there's a lot that you can sign up for, and you'll see a whole list of learning paths. And most of the courses are run between like I'd say 40 minutes to some last maybe 3 hours, but you can always stop along the way and then pick up your learning path later as well. The other thing we have are certifications. So these change all the time. I think we just added a new AI certification for associate, but basically, this is a URL where you would find those, and you would start with the RPA associate, and then you'd build on that to become the advanced RPA developer. Then another path would be the automation business analyst. We just started last year the professional specialized AI professional. And again, I think they may be adding an AI associate here fairly soon if they haven't already. So just a great way to profile yourself with these badges. They're digital on your LinkedIn or on your portfolio. The UiPath blog can be done by anybody. So you'll see that with the UiPath blogs, you can just ask to contribute to the this through the contribution tab on the main page. You basically, what you do is you send in your idea and you'll meet with one of our team members who will direct you onto that's a great idea or send me a draft copy. And then you'll work with them on that and send in your draft copy. They'll actually take that and talk to the product teams, make sure that everything is okay, that everything's agreed upon, both to protect yourself and UiPath, and then they'll work with you until that's done, and then you can go ahead and submit that. They'll post it on the site. And so that's great for you as an individual to be able to share your story, as well as your company seeing things that you're doing out there in the community, and being able to share even the smallest things, like somebody just beginning UiPath might be taking Studio for the first time, but what you're doing is appealing to that thought process or to how that is accomplished by your experiences to help others. So the other thing is developer interviews we dive into stories about their automation journeys and learn their best practices. And those are other ways we can increase the blog uh, that we do during the year. Now this UiPath forum I think is really unique. And what it does is it allows you to not only look up information on the products and get feedback, but also there's areas on this page that go into use cases. There's a job board that you can go to. There's hackathon information. If we have a new event, like I'll be running a BA program series later this year. That's something to go ahead and put out on the forum. And then people can see that. So it's a great way to engage with others. It's a great way to see what's going on. It's kind of like our community chat area. So again, we have over 2.5 million people who engage with us. Use case repository. So when we do a hackathon, we ask people to submit use cases on what they've created. And this gives you an insight into all the kinds of ways that you can use automation. So this is a great place to visit. I've gone there. It's just interesting to see things you may have never thought that you could do in your company or your professional life, how to build an automation. And then it lists sometimes the names of the people who did it. So then you can reach out to them and say, how did you do this automation? Do you have any ideas? I have some ideas. What do you think? Those types of interactions with each other. Another thing we do during the year is we do an automation survey, and the survey goes out. I think this year it went out to 1,900 people to find out what the trends are in RPA. What are the trends in the space? And we get some really good feedback from people, where they're at, how long they've been in automation. So actually ours just launched. And the results are back. And if you participate in the survey, you get a copy of it. So if anybody's interested, please let us know and we'll make sure that we send you a link to that. It's pretty interesting. It's pretty long and detailed. And it's great information, especially if you're in this career, to just see what other people are doing. So the other program, probably one of the premier programs we have is the MVP program. And the MVP is for the most valuable professional. Our applications are typically due at the end of the October. And this program is only run once a year. So if you're an MVP, you become an MVP for a year. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to, I'm going to show you one more picture where what are the reasons for being an MVP are really just to network, to grow professionally. You really get to influence our roadmap, and it's a great way to get recognized by senior leadership at UiPath. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Anna.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Diana, for all the useful information. And now we will go on to the next part of our webinar and invite Jeffrey to tell us more about his journey with the UiPath community. I do have a few questions prepared for you, Jeffrey, but if you could firstly introduce yourself, tell us about your journey.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Anna Marie. And I started with automation about 8 years ago, I want to say. And obviously, when you start your journey, you want to do some, exploration, discovery. What are the tools are there? We did a vendor selection, some POCs. So we actually started as a UiPath client in 2017 after, the selection process. And we've been doing automation ever since. We were originally a process improvement department, as the name indicates on my title. And it was just like the natural kind of evolution. I think with every technology, now we talk about Gen AI and things like that, it was always like a little bit about, is that a shiny object, or is that something that we can use in our actual business? So once we answered that question, it was kind of like a no-brainer that automation was going to be part of what we did. And obviously we haven't stopped since. So yeah, that's been my journey. Oh, you muted, Anna Marie. Anna Marie, you muted.
So sorry about that. Yeah. So thank you so much for presenting yourself. Now I will get into the questions. You already touched a little bit upon this, but why do you think automation is important and how do you use it in your job?
Sure. So I think automation is important for a couple of reasons, but one of them is the fact that in our businesses, we have so many applications. In order to do our business, we have a lot of applications to use. I work in the banking industry, which is probably something I missed from my introduction. And as a compliance heavy industry, we have, I think, over 140 applications that we consider important or critical that we automate with. So for as long as we will, and I don't see this in the future, to have actually applications that can converge into one, we will always have what I like to call manual integration processes, where it's people actually taking data from one application, multiple applications, to put it in others, to do some action in some application. And that's where, until now, we've always seen that as that's the way of doing business, is throw more people at the processes and just keep growing your back operations. And automation really comes to solve that problem, because now we can really take that and say, no, you don't have to do this. We can do this. We can do it faster. We can do it more controlling, and again, solving that big problem. And I think the other one is also evolution of the technology of automation itself. I think going back 7 years ago, the things that I can do today, probably more than half of them I wouldn't be able to do it 7 years ago. So the evolution of the actual industry, maybe the maturity of the automation industry is evolving at a fast pace, fast enough for us to be able to build more and more automations and cover more business use cases. If it wasn't for that, probably automation would just die like many other technologies do. So I think with those two cases, to me, is what makes automation important. How we use it, we actually use it a little bit different. There's a lot of companies that use it for simply, operations cost cutting, or maybe even staff reduction. We took a different approach. We actually use it more for the intent of user experience and customer experience. Like we actually called internally, it's sort of an internal name, but we call our automation program Dream Jobs. Because the design of it was to really make work better for our staff, and for our customers, right? Enhance that experience overall. And we've done that, I think, to a great degree. And the feedback that I get from our users is still today, processes that I've automated like 5-6 years ago, they still come back and was like, thank God we automated that process, because this would have been much harder now. We've even had a case like a couple of years ago where a process that was supposed to be running adjacent to our automation failed and created a bunch of errors. And because we had created the automation, we had already built a lot of the activities that could reverse those errors. Just to kind of give a scope, it was going to take like a whole week for maybe 2 or 3 people full time to just reverse those errors and correct it. And in a matter of like 4 hours, we were able to build a process, launch it into a robot that within 24 hours fixed all those errors for us. And that was kind of like a bonus, right? It wasn't really like intended, but those are the kind of experience that I'm trying to speak to.
Oh, that's really interesting. And I love the focus on the productivity part. So yeah, my next question is, what was your first contact with the UiPath community like?
God, going back to the first forums probably was my first contact. I still remember before the sort of community build out, like what today is the web presence of the community. All we had was the forums. That was it. There was no academy. There was none of the stuff that Diane talked about. And I even remember the community at the time, like looking at the numbers that Diana presented. They're huge, right? Back then there was a much smaller community. I remember posting a question on the forums and going back trying to solve it. And sometimes I was able to solve it or present the solution before somebody responded to it. That's how it was 7 years ago, right? Today, sometimes I see something pop up on my feed that, oh, somebody asked a question. By the time I go in to answers, 2 or 3 people already answered the question. So I'm like, okay, I have nothing to do here, and I walk away. So I think to me, that was the most need, I think, because it was UiPath specific. Like there's a lot of things you can Google and get information from, but to be UiPath forums is the place to go, right? I even sometimes do, this is actually something I started doing way back then, is sometimes you have some problems that you have a question, right? And you want to answer it, but you solve it now, right? Somebody else give it to you, or you solve it yourself. But then 6 months down the line, the same problem happened, and you go, I know I solved this. I know I found a solution for this, but where was it? So I go to the forums to find it. Sometimes I find my own solution that I presented, but it's like that kind of exceptional kind of cases that don't happen very often. Those kind of questions that you need a solution for that you'll never remember because you might not even remember the process that you solved it in. So having the forums almost like as a backup kind of documentation for exceptional cases, I think it's great. But that was my first contact. But I remember also when Academy came out, and I love to learn, and I always feel like I can learn on my own, but you can only go so far. So the Academy from the beginning kind of led me into that like easy pace, easy sort of like practical approach to learning. Like you can take a documentation and read it for hours and hours and hours, but it's only going to get you so far. I think having that practical approach of the Academy really, really helped. And I still, to this day, I still take the fast tracks for whenever a new release comes out and a new Academy comes out. Like I try to skip some of the bulky stuff, but I try to keep updated, especially with new technology, because you're never going to use every technology, especially today that UiPath has in every business use case you use. So sometimes like things like, I'll give the example personally of communications mining. It's a great concept. I love the technology. I've been learning about it, but I haven't really had a huge case that I can employ that into my automation. But it is something that I want to hold on to because I know at some point I'm going to come up with a business use case where I'll need to use it. So things like that, I always like to stay informed. So that's been a great help. Yeah, and obviously, I came into to the MVP program, and I think it started because somebody asked me that, why didn't you apply to the MVP? And at first I was like, well, what does that mean? Is it just like something to get a title to, feel more important about yourself? I don't need that, right? So, but then I started reading into it, and I think Diane touched a little bit on it, but there's so much more into the MVP program, and I ended up applying. It's been a great experience. Just the fact that I can reach out to program managers, the ones doing the products, and toss an idea out, then suddenly you hear somebody coming up with, oh, they took that and they ran with it. I think Diane mentioned the insider program. I think that was also my other stepping stone into even thinking about becoming an MVP was I realized that, and like we're a client of UiPath, right? As a relationship, I feel like I'm helping myself by helping UiPath get better. So when the insider program came out, the focus groups and all the different features that as they promote, I felt like that was a way to helping myself by helping UiPath, making stronger features and building more into the product. If everybody gives it 2 cents, eventually we get to $1, right? So so that's how I got to, and that's where, you know, kind of got to the point where somebody asked me, you know, hey, how would you like to be an MVP? And I was like, well, what's in it for me and for the community? I was like, well, you know, I could get in touch with more folks and have a bigger impact. Yeah, I'll do it. And I haven't regretted this far, Diane. So very good.
I'm really happy to hear about your good experience. So, like on that note, could you tell us a memorable moment since you started till now?
Sure. God, I have so many memorables. Do I just have to do one?
No, you can tell us as
I'm just
quickly
kidding.
as you need.
God, I have a few, but I'm gonna bring up one. I wanna call out the first time I went to a focus group. And I use this because I even talk to other vendors sometimes, and I use this as an example because when we went to the focus group, it was almost like going into a psychiatrist's office where instead of people saying, okay, we build this feature, here's the screen, here's the functionality, here's how you're going to use it, and just get feedback from people, almost like getting a sentiment of the pulse of what the people are thinking. The approach of the focus groups that UiPath was different. It was more like, here's what the screen looks like, here's what we're trying to do, you tell us how should this work. I remember actually somebody asking on the focus group about some box or some, you know, input box or whatever, and it says what is that supposed to do, and it says what do you think it should do. And I think that's how software development should apply. Probably if every software development took that approach, maybe we wouldn't even need automation. You know, I don't think that's ever going to happen. But the point is, it's more about, you know, listen, we're not here to build something and tell you how to use it. We're here to get your feedback because you're the one that's going to use it, and we want to build it. I think that actually is probably what got me as involved as I've been in the community, because I felt like I was actually going to be listened. So I had a good idea, right? Uh, but I was actually got more interested in say I want to participate more in these, and then it was just a balance of how much of my time can I invest into, because you want to sign up for every focus group, for every insider program, but you just don't have time to be and participate and actually give the value that you need to each one. So it's just a balance at that point. But it really got me more into it was after that focus group.
Oh, that's great to hear. And the next question is, what is one lesson that you've learned during your journey in automation?
I'm going to go back to the beginning. I think when I first started, it was very easy to start developing, right? This is a tool that when I first got it, it was like capability that I didn't have before, right? You know, for some of the reasons from the first question that you asked me, right? I have so much cases now that I can apply this to. So now you go into this journey of let's build a catalog, right? Let's start creating a criteria so we can select processes and start automating it. But once you select that process, then it's just you're like you're in it, you're doing it, you want to move on to the next one, get that one in production, and keep going, right? It's easy and it's fast to develop. And what I lost focus of was at some point, I'm going to have to touch this process. I like to call this the maintainability and upgradability of processes, because every process changes, right? Whether it be because a regulation comes out, whether it be because of a business decision that something changed in the way your business rules run, whatever the case may be. You may even be an application that changed something on the way their screen operates or the logic on their screen. You need to touch your process. And then the other part is your upgradability, which is kind of solved by the same sort of solution, but at the end of the day it's different. Is you want to stay with the latest version of your sort of product, because if you don't, as it goes back, it's harder to convert sort of those processes. So when I first started, I kind of set the goal to say I'm going to upgrade this to the latest LTS every single time it comes out, which usually is around October, November. So I had blocked out January as my upgrade kind of time frame. And I thought, oh, in the beginning, I had a handful of processes, maybe less than 20 at that point. And I said, a week should be enough. It took me about a month and a half. And that's when I realized that, oh, shoot, I need to look at this a little bit differently. And that's when I kind of did a lot of changes to the program, how we automated, we did some of the scripts that we had done. And today, upgradability, and I have far more processes than I did back then. It's like an hour event, couple of hours here and there. It's more of just upgrade, test, and confirm that everything is going to move to production. And so it's more like an hour here, an hour there per process, rather than just an event that I need to do over a course of weeks or months. And I want to say that a lot of the lessons from traditional software development apply here. Some maybe a little bit differently, some don't apply at all. But one of the ones that I've always took was reusability of code from that lesson, because uh, when you have 104 applications and you're building a process for, say, application A, you're bound to build another process for that application. And a lot of times we don't pull back and really think about it as a unit of work that you can reuse. I remember the example that I gave earlier about having the activities ready for the process that I was able to reuse and now build another process. In this case, was a temporary one, but one that I did not have to spend hours and hours and hours of building and testing for it. And that was simply because of the use of reusability of code. It helps me a lot every year when an application changes, like there's an upgrade to application B. Usually I try to have a sandbox. I run the test on the sandbox. If anything breaks, I'm already ready. I have time to go fix this process. So by the time that gets pushed to production, I can just simply update all my processes in a matter of minutes or hours, because everything's been fixed already. So it's really helped me, not just that maintainability and upgradability that I had into the future as I grew the program, as I build it out, but also new development, because now you're building processes within those applications that when a new process comes out and you realize that, oh, well, 3 or 4 different screens here are already automated, I just have to build one for that one. It makes the new development much faster too. You just have to have more of an architecture mindset to do that, to make sure that the reusability is scalable through different processes. But it just helps a ton. So I think that was a lesson that I learned right in the beginning that I think I never forgot, and I never lost focus because of its importance, I think, to me.
Wow, that is really interesting, Sam. Thank you so much for all the information. This was the last question I had prepared for you, and now I'm gonna let the audience ask or make any comments, or if you want us to discuss something, you can go ahead and unmute yourself or write it in the chat.
Hi, thanks for doing this today. At the beginning of the call, you mentioned if this is our first introduction to the community, and I said no. Then I was like, wait, I've been part of this for a little bit. I'll back up a little bit. So I'm also in banking. My company has a process improvement department, and they also have a citizen developer program where you can apply, and if you're selected, you learn the automation process and you can start building automations for your business unit. I recently went through that program. It was very fast tracked. But didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but I was able to create an automation to present as like my graduation piece. And now I'm moving on to an automation for my business unit. Well, trying to build an automation for my business unit, and I'm like, what am I doing right now? This is a pretty big feat, and I was kind of struggling with trying to figure out why I'm stuck and what I need to do next. But kind of like since hearing you speak about the community, I should just ask the question in the community, and it sounds like there's a bunch of people there that can help me with it. I've been trying to do this on my own. YouTube is not really working out for me, and I'm glad I came here today, because obviously it sounds like I just need to go ask the question in the community. So that's my comment. I do have a question though. So I am currently logged into my UiPath Academy, and there's several different courses it looks like I can enroll. Can I enroll in these and take these for free since I'm part of Oh,
You sure
okay.
can. Not only
Nice.
that,
All right.
you'll see that we have a couple of programs coming up. And so one that's starting in October is like a program that Christina, my colleague's running, but it's a global program. It's for AI associate. I'll
Uh-huh.
be running a program here in a little while. It starts on September 4th globally. That's Women in Automation. And
Okay.
then I'm also doing another series this year for in October it starts for business analytics. So not only will you find out, and I can even pull up my screen
Okay.
and just share with you um, a little bit about like where you can find this stuff. But typically if you go to community, let me just get there. community.uipath.com. You can go to events and you'll see things that are going to start happening. So there's dev dive events. Those are for serious deep dives. There's an autopilot series that's coming up. And if they're not running currently, what we do is we put all the recordings up there so you can find them, even if you weren't able to attend. As well as any of our programs, if you can attend, you still register because then you have access to all the recordings. And
Okay.
so we have all these happening. There's a ton of resources here. And also we're pretty friendly. So I put my email in the chat. You can just ping me and say, I'm really looking for somebody to help me with A, B, or C, and I'll see what I can do. Which is, like I said, really unusual. And then definitely sign into the forum. There's just a wealth of information there. Um, we have, let me find that, but contributors. Um, I just think that it is amazing. And there's things you find out there that you might not typically find out about unless you're on the forum. So again, it's a great way to build your network. I always say that even being an MVP, the biggest benefit you have with UiPath is building your network in the area you want to succeed in. Because the more people you get to know, the more that you will not be alone and you'll have other people with like issues, with like problems. You don't have to figure out everything for yourself. You have this incredible community that has either done it before or can provide you with insight, things you might not have thought of. So all that is available on that initial web page. But like I said, there's the feedback session, there's a help session. You can even pick like what area you need help with, or you can just write a email, just say, hey, I'm in banking. Is anybody else in banking out there? What are you trying to do? Here again, here's some programs, the learning initiatives that we run. We try to highlight them there so that people know about them. And then also here on this, in addition to just being part of the forum, we also just highlight the other opportunities you have. Everything we do is free. So that's pretty unique. The only thing that probably isn't is a certification. And sometimes when you take a series, you get discounts on those as well for having to attend the series. But yeah.
Good information. I'm so glad I came to this. I was feeling so defeated. I'm like, maybe I'm just not smart enough for this whole automation thing. But I'm definitely going to use the community and look at the other learning courses out there. So thank you.
Yeah, and then if you have trouble, like with a course, write something in the, say, I'm struggling with this, how I can't quite seem to get this done, and then somebody will help you, which I think is amazing because that's why we run series, I think, because in addition to doing things by yourself, I think sometimes you still get like trapped or stopped and you're just curious if you're doing it right. And so it's always nice to have an expert there. And Jeffrey is one of 125 MVPs globally, and they're constantly looking at the forum. So what's nice about that is you can be guaranteed that you're really talking to technical people out there, as well as our product leadership is on the forum oftentimes. So it's super cool because they are, there to make sure everybody succeeds. So that's a little bit more about our community. Just this, you know, I think Anna Maria put these in chat for the community and the forum, but just having those URLs is really important. And before you know it, you'll just feel really welcome and able to navigate and find people and connect with people on the forum. And that's a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Alexa, for your feedback and your question. And thank you, Diana, for taking the time to answer. Are there any other questions? If not, I have a question for Jeffrey because I love to hear about the members' journeys. And if you could just talk a little bit more about like, what is the best part about being an MVP? What do you like about working with UiPath?
Sure. I think I already mentioned the fact that you get access to program manager kind of access, right? Be able to talk to them. And one of the things that I've experienced this was in the MVP summit. I was lucky to be able to participate. It was a time that I was able to take some time off, and I don't regret it. I wish every MVP does that at least the first year, because it is amazing. You not only get to see the people up front and meet them, but you also get to meet your fellow MVPs. And I've built so many good relationships with people. I know Alexa mentioned she's also in banking. There's like 3 or 4 of us that was at the summit and there, and that's just a small subset of the 125 Diana was talking about. And then we stayed friends. Now we talk about each other. We're all at different size organizations, so which makes an interesting conversation, because being a top 10 bank in the US, for example, being on the middle, like there's different challenges that we all encounter. So be able to network with them was as great as being able to have access to program directors. It was what was it, 3 days, 4 days that we were there, and it was just amazing to hear the stuff, be able to give your feedback, but just network with everybody and learn from everybody's experience. It's really, networking is really something phenomenal in life, regardless what it is, but especially here on the MVP program.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so cool. And if there are no more questions, I think we can wrap this up. I just want to share one more time the useful links. That's me. Yeah, these are all the links are also in the description, community page, academy, forum, blog, and certification. Make sure to check them, see what's fit for you, and hopefully get some help. And yeah, Diana, is there anything else?
No, great job. Thank you guys for joining us today. We've really enjoyed this, and we're hoping to have more sessions in the Boston chapter. So Anna Maria, thank you so much. Great hosting job for this session. And Jeffrey, as always, thanks for joining us and sharing your information and knowledge about UiPath and what it's like as an MVP. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you,
So,
Fernanda.
thanks, anybody. Just feel free to reach out if you guys need anything else.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.